a lot of people are saying Syracuse is the tougher game than Texas A&M. And all I heard in January was Texas A&M is the game on the schedule. It's the best non-conference game in all of college football. It is the game. But now we're getting closer to the season, and all of a sudden people are saying, well, Syracuse is actually going to be tougher than Texas A&M. And I wanted to give you 3 quick reasons why I agree, and then a couple of quick reasons why I don't agree. And then we'll kind of go, I'll see what you think, Mark. So my first reason is that Clemson, what's the game? This is kind of interesting to say. Why are they more difficult than Texas A&M? But one of the reasons is because they're the game after Texas A&M. so they have to, Clemson has to play a tough team and then turn around and play away in the Carrier Dome against Syracuse. So I think the point of the schedule, Syracuse has got to play, I think, William and Mary and then Maryland. And we don't know what Maryland's going to do.
Liberty and Maryland.
Yes, Liberty and Maryland. So we don't know kind of Maryland right now. We think they're going to be kind of dangerous, but it's still kind of a new coach rebuilding kind of situation. So we don't really know yet. But Syracuse is going to have an early game that Saturday before, and then they're going to be able to watch the Texas A&M game, I guess, maybe, and then wait for Clemson to come to town. So that's going to be one reason for yes. It's after a hard game, right? Another reason for yes is something that one of the writers for Syracuse came on and told me about, which I didn't realize, is it's actually slated to be college game day there. And it's the first ever college game day for football at Syracuse. They've had tons of college game days for basketball, but not very many, no college game days for football. So that's going to be, you know how college game day is. You get up early. You get up 6 a.m. and you stand out there and you just wait. I did it one year when it was Clemson, Florida State, and I vowed never to do it again because you just stand there for hours and hours and hours. And I never got caught on TV. My family never saw me. So unless you have a big giant poster board that has something crazy on it, good luck, because you're not going to get seen on TV. You're going to be one of the millions of there sitting. But that brings a lot of that excitement, a lot of that, hey, this is a big game. This is the big stage. It's time for us to prove ourselves. Okay, number 3 is that rumor has it that, a lot of people are saying, oh, this Tommy DeVito guy, he's no Eric Dungy. Yeah, you're right. He's no Eric Dungy. But the Syracuse guys that I'm talking to are saying Tommy DeVito got a better arm than Eric. Yeah, he's not going to run around like Eric, but actually, Dino Babers, this is the guy he's been wanting for a couple of years now. He's been grooming him up to this point, even in high school years, just kind of really leaning on him to come to Syracuse and build something big. And they just won 10 games. They're going to load up with this guy who's got a big arm. So a lot of the Syracuse guys are saying yes for me, or for them to have a chance. Now, here's my reasons for no. No is the guy we just talked about, Eric Dungy. 732 yards rushing. That was their number 2 running back, basically. Their quarterback was their number 2 running back. And he's gone. And they don't have a clear number 2. So, that's a big deal. Not only did they lose Eric Dungy, but they only have 2 offensive linemen returning. That's another big there. And just look back at this year. Why didn't they seal the deal against Clemson? The running game. ETN started just chewing off yards and just dominating at the end of the game. Well, guys, we just talked about Lynn J. Dixon is going to be ready to eat, and tear up the field, tear up that turf. And so I'm seeing Travis and Lynn J. tear it up. We already know that was what's successful last year. Don't you think Tony and Jeff are going to go to the well again and just run it down your throat again? Hey, last year, yeah, they did great, but you're looking at a Clemson team that was going through some off-the-field drama for the first time really in a long time, since really like maybe Sammy Watkins and the little, police incident. But, I mean, that was some big drama with Kelly Bryant. And then Trevor Lawrence got like a stinger that they thought was kind of a concussion/stinger. So it was a weird game. Clemson pulled it out. It's not going to be that weird this year, I don't believe.
So here's a couple of things that I think about Syracuse. Okay, number one, There is a city in the United States that has giant, shiny buildings in it. It's called Las Vegas. Las Vegas is not a big believer in Syracuse. Okay. We've seen the under over win totals on Syracuse be as low as 5.5,
No way.
somewhere up to 6.5 so far, which is where they're seeing it. And it seems like easy money, right? That's what Vegas wants you to think. So there's a lot of people that are really smart and make money for a living following college football that are not big on Syracuse at all this year. Okay. That's number one. Number two, I think Syracuse has a real chance to have a drop off like Miami did from 2 years ago to last year for some very similar reasons. If you go back and look at the statistics, turnovers, turnover margin, points off turnovers. Syracuse was top 5, top 6 in the country last year in all of those categories, right? That's going to be almost impossible to replicate. And this is what happened with Miami last year. They weren't getting those big turnovers in the games anymore. They weren't getting the points off the turnovers. And suddenly these close games that they had been winning the year before, they weren't winning anymore. And I'm not saying they're going to be as bad of a drop off as Miami last year, but even if you just see regression down to the mean on turnovers for Syracuse next year, that's going to cost them 5, 6, 7 points a game. That's going to cost them some wins. So if you look 2 seasons ago with Syracuse, Syracuse did beat Clemson, but they ended up losing like 5 of their last 6 games after that, after Eric Dungey got hurt, right? And they had a 10-win game next season. I am not a believer in Syracuse at all this year. This to me feels like a team in the ACC that might be the most overhyped team in the ACC.
Whoa.
And then you're going to ask me a question, right? Who's going to step up in the East? I don't know who's going to step up in the East, but I could easily see Syracuse losing 3 or 4 games next year. I think Clemson is going to stomp them next season up in the Carrier Dome and really send a message, because that's been the team that's kind of had their number and their goat. And there's been some weird things that have happened in the games, obviously, with the QB injuries. But I've really got Syracuse circled as a team that I think might be very overhyped next year. And I'm going to keep an eye on that. So of the 2 games that I'm worried about, I'm not really worried about either one of them, but I'm a little bit more worried about Texas A&M than I am that Syracuse game.
Wow. So you heard it first here. The most overhyped team in the ACC per Mark Childress, Syracuse, the Orange. So, put up or shut up, guys. I didn't realize that they were projected 5 or 6 wins. Like you said, Vegas is Vegas for a reason. Mm-hmm. And it's not because everybody goes there and makes millions. It's because everybody goes there and wishes they hadn't have gone. They know what they're doing. They know the spread. And I also kind of go with the S&P plus. Clemson's win probability for Texas A&M is 79%, which the lowest is 76% at South Carolina because of a rival game. We get it. But for Syracuse, 91% chance of winning.
8. Yep.
So, statistically, you and I are both stats guys. We have to go with the numbers, not emotions. That's why I don't ever bet on Clemson. I really don't bet at all. But my dad always says, don't ever bet on Clemson. Don't ever bet on your heart, because they'll disappoint you when you don't want them to. So I don't do that. But yeah, I have to agree with you. I think that they have a better quarterback, Kellen Mond, but I don't think that Kellen Mond's going to have some sort of Connor Shaw type game again. Man, that game last year, he was throwing stuff up in the 5th row, and a wide receiver was catching it and making 2 feet in. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. He was almost sacked after being the offensive line holding the defensive line for like 10 seconds. Then they'd almost sack him, and he'd still get the ball off, and they'd go get 50 yards. It was crazy. I don't see them doing that in Death Valley, but I do see them having being more difficult game for Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tiger Group. I think I agree with you. DeVito might have that big arm, but you just 732 yards. Your number 2 rusher is your quarterback, and he's gone. And Dungey was one of those kind of guys, like a Johnny Football. You just could not squash him, like a Kellen Mond, like a Connor Shaw, like a Tim Tebow. He just not the best player in the world, but man, you just can't. They just make plays when you don't want them to make, when they least likely. But he's gone, so we'll have to see. What happens. But I agree with you. I think that you have to go with Vegas